Okay, so it stopped snowing. It's been snowing for like 2 days now. Crazy out here for our area. But anyway, I'm not at the office today. We're snowed in, so I thought I'd do this video from home today. My name is Dr. Anson Service, and if you're autistic, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you feel like you've been taken advantage of by others? Maybe more severely than other people you know who are not autistic? And if so, the answer is yes, you're not alone. And while that totally sucks, and I'm really sorry that those things have happened to you, it's really not that unusual. In fact, it's so common that somebody had to coin the term on autistic mate crime. And this video is about autistic mate crimes and friends who take advantage of you. So the question is, what is an autistic mate crime? Basically, it's when someone becomes a friend of an autistic individual and then purposely takes advantage of them or bullies them in some way. And it could be somehow getting the autistic person to commit a crime, for instance, or engage in risky drug or substance use behaviors, engaging in sexual behaviors, lending money or spending money on a person, like you spending money on them, giving away their things to other people that they don't really want to give away, or being pressured to act in a certain way, or any number of different other scenarios. There are so many ways that a person can be taken advantage of. One study suggests that nearly 100% of autistic people have a hard time telling true friends from those who are not. So one of the questions I often ask autistic people is if they know the difference between a true friend and a mere acquaintance. And intellectually, I usually hear the correct answer. But when I ask their spouse or their partner or their parents or other close people to them, they often say that that person has a long history of actually not knowing the difference, at least behaving in that way. And when I dig deeper, stories start to come up of friends who are taking advantage of them. I'm going to put huge air quotes around friends there, but they're taking advantage of them. Those who are most vulnerable are autistic people who are in those crucial social years from the mid-teens to the mid-20s. This is basically when their social life is most important to them, and that's pretty standard for everybody. 80% of those in that age range report being taken advantage of. So why does this happen? Why are autistic people being taken advantage of? Why are they falling for it? One reason might be because for many autistic individuals, it can be very difficult to keep friends and make friends, and this likely goes way back to their school days, and friendship is not only important to most autistic people, but since it's been so hard to come by, they may really value it and be highly motivated to have or keep friends. So they often feel this really deep, powerful internal pressure to do things that they think will make or keep friends. And it can be very lonely to be autistic, and who wants to feel that pain of loneliness? I mean, that just sucks. Many people, they want to fit in, and others can recognize this and use it to their advantage. And there we have an autistic mate crime ripe for the happening. So another reason that an autistic person might be more vulnerable is because of possible executive functioning problems related to ADHD. And I often see ADHD in autistic people. Not all the time, but I often do. And it seems like so many times they kind of go hand in hand because there are so many shared characteristics between the two. So one of those portions of ADHD that's problematic is executive functioning, and it has several components to it, but the two that make a person with ADHD and autism more likely to be taken advantage of have to do with emotions and actions. Somebody with ADHD can have problems regulating their emotions. They may really feel their emotions so strongly that they have a hard time making sense of them in the moment, and that can feel very confusing and uncomfortable. I know this because I have been diagnosed with ADHD. I've had it my whole life, but I wasn't actually diagnosed until actually after college. Yeah, I went through the whole thing with ADHD. That was tough. So let's add to that the problem with action. Action is having difficulty monitoring their behaviors and controlling their behaviors, and we have someone who does things based on emotions and not really thinking things through very well. Both of them together, the emotions and the action together, equal a problem. Now, a lot of people have ADHD, right? Lots of people have ADHD. But that ADHD, or add that ADHD to someone who's autistic and wanting to make or keep friends, may have challenges communicating their true feelings and wants, may have some sort of anxiety component going on, some fear of rejection, fear of not being liked, and so many more things. And you've got somebody who's highly vulnerable to an autistic mate crime. So also check this out. It's believed that autistic people also have a difference in the retinoic acid-induced 1 gene. This difference leads to that autistic person having more trust, but a diminished understanding of long-term consequences. Now again, this is not everybody. This is just a lot of people. So basically, when a friend asks them to do something, they're getting these great neuropeptides going on in their brain. It's acceptance and belonging, and that feels great. But when you take that along with the ADHD stuff, along with the difference in trust and long-term consequences and the difficulty reading people in situations that some have, it can really be a perfect storm that nobody should be in as they get all caught up in some sort of bad situation. So, along with this, everything I just mentioned, along with this, or after this I should say, or with it, can come a lot of shame and a lot of embarrassment and guilt. And who wants to admit that they've been manipulated or duped or taken advantage of, etc.? Especially if someone considers themselves smart and independent. So then they tend to get on this slippery slope situation that can often happen where something starts small. Somebody just asks you to do something really small. It's not that big of a deal, so you'll make a small concession. And then the autistic person is talked into doing something a little more. And then later, another step in the wrong direction. And before they knew it, they're doing all these things that they never would have wanted to do, and they don't know how to get out of their situation. Now, again, I want to really drive home the idea that this does not equal stupidity or helplessness. That's not what this is. But you can see there are some factors here at play that make it tougher for somebody with autism and ADHD to get out of this. Basically, when this happens, this leads them to force themselves to trust people less and less because they really want to trust people. They pull back from social situations that they aren't 100% sure of, and that can lead to depression and anxiety and a host of other issues. And these states of mind tend to make ADHD symptoms even worse, and then it all becomes some massive positive feedback loop. And positive actually in this case means more and more, not better. So they get in this feedback loop where it just increases the symptoms. So what does an autistic person do in situations like that? Typically they don't want to ask for help. Is that what you expect them to do? Possibly, but then they might be worried that the person who they tell is going to freak out on their friends and embarrass everybody and themselves. I don't know. If they ask for someone for help, now they have to listen to a lecture sometimes from their loved ones, and I don't know anybody who likes to be lectured by loved ones. But I feel like people with autism or autistic people are even more sensitive to like lecturing than I think other people are. What else do they do? Do they try to wiggle out of their difficult situation on their own and hope it all goes away? Possibly. I think they try that a lot. Do they do nothing? They freak out on their friend? I mean, there's so many get into situations where the shame and the risk of embarrassment is debilitating, and they get in deeper and deeper until it becomes just an enormous problem. So I'll get into solutions in a minute, but first let me talk about how you can spot an autistic mate crime that's actually happening right now. So one thing to watch out for. Does he or she, meaning the autistic person, seem like they're ditching out on typical activities like hanging out with family and true friends to hang out with a new friend group or a new friend? Do they do that? That could be a warning sign. Another one is, does he or she have a sudden change in interest that may not be very healthy or positive or is risky in nature? This could be like drug use or just hanging out with people that you know are up to no good, kind of that type of thing. Is she or he using their own money to pay for other people? That could be a huge vulnerability area. Is the person suddenly the target of a person's affection that seems opportunistic? So suddenly somebody really latches on to the autistic person, and of course the autistic person is going to feel great about that, because who wouldn't, right? But somebody really latching on that's just waiting for something, a payday of some sort. I don't know. When you try to talk to someone who's being taken advantage of and they're vehemently defending their new friend who may be taking advantage of them, that might be a sign as well. So there are so many more examples, and if you have any examples of an autistic mate crime, please leave it in the comments below so that other people can read about those. I want to add something though. What about those people who are not intentionally trying to take advantage of an autistic person? Because early on I said the definition of autistic mate crime is somebody who intentionally does it. But what if this person just has like mental health problems, emotional problems? They're finding some sort of relief or coping strategy and hanging around the autistic person. Maybe the autistic person is so cool that it actually makes that person genuinely feel better. Is this a mate crime? Maybe, because it is hurting someone. Maybe a lot of projecting going on there. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more of this going on where someone is just being a selfish, short-sighted, egotistical like ass more than trying to deliberately get something from someone. Maybe subconsciously they're trying to get something, but it's not like they sit and plan it out or anything like that. So the other thing is a lot of friends who take advantage of their autistic friends may be totally sincere in their friendship, but it could be that they have pushed away all their other friends and the only friend left is the autistic person because they want a friend so bad, even if that friend mistreats them from time to time because of their emotional issues. So what I'm saying is it's not always super intentional where there's like some, massive plan here to really take advantage of somebody. It doesn't always have to be that, but it still can be a mate crime. So what do you do if you're being bullied, if you're being taken advantage of or talked to into doing things that you don't really want to be doing by someone? If you're the victim of autistic mate crime, you can do several things. First, you know what pressure from other people feel like. It feels bad. If you feel this from someone, it's okay to tell them that you feel like you're being pressured. But you don't owe anybody anything. So if you feel like you'd rather just not participate in that little pressure party with that person, say that 3 times fast, then you've got permission to just stop hanging out with them. You really do. There's no rule that says you have to continue hanging out with somebody that feels like you're being pressured. Pressure is not a good thing for autistic people. I know. For neurotypical people, they can sometimes thrive under pressure, but to most autistic people, from what I've talked to, it's like kryptonite to them. So pressure is not a good thing, and you can feel free to just not hang around with people that you feel pressure from. Number 2, attend a support group for autistic people. I know that may sound terrible and boring and blah, 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 blah. But seriously, the more you find out that others likely have the same or similar things going on, the better you'll be able to help yourself in the future. They'll probably all have stories about being taken advantage of, and you'll find out how others were able to help themselves or get help too. So they're really, really powerful to be part of those group support systems. So if what somebody is doing to you is illegal in any way, you can always call the police and report it. And I'm totally serious about this. It's a good idea. One example is an autistic woman named Jerry who was talked into going in on a short-term low-cost investment with somebody who claimed to be a friend. She was talked into putting her on her bank account to make things easier to make quick investment decisions. And since they only agreed to a small amount, Jerry didn't think it was that big of a deal. Well, over time, Jerry's friend started taking money out for small things sort of related, and then for personal things. And eventually over $5,000 was taken. And I know this is, people have been taken for a lot worse than that, but this is just this one little scenario. Luckily, the police were able to help her get her money back, but I really didn't think she was going to see a cent back from that. But the police did help in this case because Jerry was considered vulnerable. So if someone is taking your money, even if they say it's legal, then police may be able to help or at least steer you in the right direction. Here's another tip. Don't lend money to people if you've been financially taken advantage of in the past. If they are a true friend and ask for money, they'll still be your friend if you say no. If they threaten you or say they won't be your friend anymore or make you feel bad by saying things to you, then they're not a true friend at all. So basically, try not to loan money to anybody, especially if you've got a history of being taken advantage of there. If anyone makes you feel bad about yourself, they may not be a true friend either. Of course, most friendships are going to go through a tough time or few, but a true friend will not make you feel bad about yourself like that. So ask a true friend or a family member about that person if you feel bad after talking with them or being with them. Let others you trust help you out here. Everyone has strengths and limitations, and it's okay to totally admit your limitations. Next tip, don't let people into your home unless you know them well and you can trust them. If someone needs to work on your home like a worker, that's fine if they have ID stating who they are and what they're there for, and if you knew about it ahead of time. But don't let anybody else in your home. Don't let salespeople into your home, and don't give money to anyone, ever, that you don't know well, especially people approaching you in a parking lot asking for help with gas or money or their medications or all those types of things. There's plenty of organizations out there that help with that. You don't need to be helping. Just say no and move along. And if they start to bully you, which has happened to me before, you say no louder, and then you can find someone who can help. Here's another one, very important. Get a good therapist who knows autism well. And we're talking like adult autism. This can be difficult to ask of somebody. So ask a lot of questions to a therapist to make sure they really know adult autism. A good therapist is someone you can tell all the things to, and they can help you understand the intentions of others and how to deal with these issues based on what you tell them. The last one is obvious, and I can't believe I'm even saying it, but stop hanging out with anyone who mistreats you like that and take things slow. Don't rush into anything with anyone. Avoid rushing into relationships, one-night stands, or business opportunities and crazy shenanigans like that. They've got no place in your life. So it's okay to just say no and just walk away. It's totally fine not to participate like that. Okay, so we've talked about what an autistic mate crime is and how to spot it, as well as what to do about it. But isn't it true that most everybody gets taken advantage of by someone at some point in their life? Yes, but autistic people tend to be more vulnerable to being taken advantage of by others who are their friends or claim to be their friends. They oftentimes have to work a lot harder and undergo more emotional challenges living in a world that's not set up for the autistic mind. They can quickly lose their money, their jobs, their real friends, and possessions if they don't really see the deception in play. The difference in the autistic brain makes it more likely that they can be totally screwed over by somebody. So while everyone else is susceptible to being screwed over, it can happen more frequently and more severely to an autistic person, generally speaking. Again, generally speaking. I also wanted to touch on one more thing, and this could be a little bit controversial, but it's pretty bad. A while back, autism was thought to be the cause of erratic, violent behavior. Murderers and other violent offenders diagnosed with autism were being used as an example of what autism looked like. But studies suggest there is no evidence that autism causes violent crime. None whatsoever. And if you know a lot of autistic people, you probably totally vouch for that. So isn't it true that we're all just starting to understand that we really don't understand autism very well? Let me say that again. It's true that we're all just starting to understand that we don't understand autism. Meaning there are many autistic people who've not been identified yet as being autistic. And there are so many different ways that autism presents itself in different people. But wouldn't it also make sense that if an autistic person has a friend who's manipulating him or her into something illegal, that they're more likely to get in trouble? So wouldn't it make sense that they'd be a target for law enforcement sometimes because of emotions and behaviors that many autistic people struggle with, such as anger because they're in a tough situation, or aggression when melting down, or challenges in understanding other people's intentions or emotions, or controlling their strong emotions? It makes me wonder how many who are in prison and jail are actually autistic and don't even know it yet. Do they have a history of falling in with the wrong crowd and being talked into things? Have they developed intense interests in illegal things or activities as a result of other people? Do they have a history of constantly being in trouble for emotionally behavioral dysregulation, even though they hate that they act like that? These are all questions to consider, and I don't have good answers for you, but they're things that we need to keep in our mind. And our country and our world has got to do a better job in helping identify autistic people as early as possible, to help them learn how to navigate this crazy world we live in and to learn about themselves in a more positive manner. So that's it for me. Take care, my friends, and if you have any topics you'd like me to address, message me. Thanks. Have a great snow day.